PR Connections Radio presents the Love of Business Podcast. The love of business, nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit. This show is brought to you by Paid Per Letter. Write letters and make a difference. paidperletter.com/Uncle Dan.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the Love of Business podcast this morning. I'm your host, Davin Sundvik. Joined with me today is also our other host, Edgar Rodriguez. We don't have a guest today, so it's just going to be us bouncing back and forth, talking about different things in our personal businesses, the business world in general. So, Edgar, go ahead and introduce yourself in more long form, and then I'll introduce myself, and we'll get right to our regular podcast.
Yeah, so I'm excited for today, Davin, and appreciate the kind words. So my name's Edgar Rodriguez. I'm the founder of Master the Network here in Las Vegas, where we specialize in business coaching and also business valuation. So for us, just really excited to get this podcast kicked off and see what's changed and update in what's going on in today's Love of Business podcast. But Davin, back to you.
Rock on. So I'm Davin Sundvik. I call myself a real estate entrepreneur. So whether it's agent to agent coaching, commercial real estate, residential real estate investing, it's pretty much anything that falls underneath my category and what I do. So with that being said, Edgar, what's kind of like the first topic that you want to talk about today?
Yeah. So for you, you've got some exciting things happening in your world. So what would you say you're most excited about coming into, we're kicking off actually Q2 today. So with Q2 today, what's something that you're really, really excited about?
So my daughter's going to be born pretty soon here, May 28th. So I'm really excited for the opportunity to lean a lot more on the people that work in my business instead of just me, like relying on myself. I think that's a big moment for like every entrepreneur, to realize that there's something more than just you and what you're doing, that there's all these other people that depend on you inside your business, inside your family as well. So yeah, the family's definitely growing and it's really exciting. So yeah. How about yourself? I know you got some certifications lined up. What do you got going on right now?
Yeah, and thanks for sharing, Davin. That's really exciting. Congratulations again on firstborn being here and it being a daughter. So welcome to the Girl Dad Club, my friend. As far as what I've got going on, man, I'm really excited. For me, one of the biggest changes coming into 2024 was just getting my last certification and being an accredited business valuator. And we were talking a little bit offline that for me, it's really exciting just knowing the tremendous amount of value that brings to the table in just showing, business owners and business leaders a roadmap, right? When we first get into business, there's typically, it's like, hey, I got this great idea. I've got all these people supporting me and boom, we're off to the races, right? But then you start thinking about, hey, what's that structure look like? Hey, when we got started, we just started making money. So now that, we want to get a good game plan. What does that look like? So being able to come in with that valuation tool, it's a deliverable document, right? It's 20 plus pages that goes into 8 different drivers, and key drivers that teach business owners like, hey, let's look at all these different avenues, but what are the first, top 2, top 3 for you? And then the software will actually give us like what it thinks the top 3 should be. So the exciting part is being able to customize it exactly to what somebody needs in current time. Top things that I've always seen for most people is, hey, I need more revenue, right? Yeah. Revenue, streamline processes, and getting that good team. So you talked about, for you, Davin, you're about to lean on your team and knowing that, hey, I have that good team that I can rely on
Mhm.
while I have to step back a little bit, right? Because babies don't come with instructions, just like business doesn't.
Oh gosh. And there's all these people, that surround me. And I think it's mainly positive, but there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you don't even know what to expect, or there's nothing that you can do to prepare for a child. And I'm like, I think there are. I think you can prepare certain things. And then I think the rest of it, you have to say, hey, look, I have this mindset where I expect the unexpected, and that's what you have to be as an entrepreneur. You have to expect the unexpected. You have to be adaptable. So I do think I will adapt. I mean, I don't think I know everything about parenthood, but I think I'll figure it out. Um, so I do think that there are a lot of commonalities. Like when I first got into business, people were like, well, aren't you worried about this or worried about that? I'm like, if I was worried about that stuff, I wouldn't be taking action, right? If I didn't have a plan for that to adapt and overcome those things, I would just be instilled in stagnation mode and never start a business, right? So
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that. And something that you said on the topic of adaptability in today's market, the customer experience has evolved, right? Because people
Oh yeah.
expect more for less now. How has that impacted your business strategy, and how are you dealing with that? Moving forward.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that I do. I've created just like how you've created a certification, right? Well, you didn't create the certification, but you got the certification. You're now horizontally integrated, right? You can provide additional services that you would have had to refer out to somebody else, and now you can do it yourself. Same thing. I don't have additional certifications because what I created doesn't require a certification, but I have essentially it's a really fancy calculator. It projects real estate values, cash flow, your taxes. Obviously, some of these things like have to be like reconsulted, like the tax side of it. But it can give you a ballpark estimate on what your taxes could look like from owning a certain property. And I think a lot of people especially realtors don't understand that. They don't even know how to talk about those conversations. So when I can say, hey, look, I'm a real estate advisor, right? So if you need a real estate advice, come to me, and you get that free handout, you get so many more warm introductions, right? For your main business, right? Because I don't charge for people to see my calculator. I just ask that, hey, look, like you respect my time. We talk about what we talk about in the meeting, and then you get the information that you get. And if you want to move forward with a purchase, or you want to move forward with a sale, or whatever it is, then hey, let's talk and let's do it. And that's how I've navigated it, is just by providing more value in ways that I don't want to say is convenient, but it's more convenient for me to provide that value than it is for that customer to create this calculator from scratch for them to get that answer. Right. So I can leverage that one-time work. It took me maybe 20 or 30 hours to build that calculator. And then now I get to leverage that over hundreds of customers, right? It pays for itself in the long run. So that's how I've done it. Doing things that are inconvenient, but then being able to what's the word, scale it out to where one piece of work gets to be experienced by hundreds if not thousands of people. That's how I provide more value. How about you?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great question. I want you to answer it for yourself too.
Yeah, I want to echo what you said, because it's a lot. We're not in the business of trying to sell a product or service. We're in the business of providing solutions for things that people need. And something
Yeah.
you said resonates with me for sure, is that you want to be that advisor, right? You don't want to be that real estate agent. You don't want to be that real estate broker. You want to be that trusted advisor for someone, right? So when you think about some of the biggest purchases that people will ever make, or investments, right? It's that home, right?
Hmm.
And so they're looking for guidance of like, hey, is this gonna stretch me too far? I really like this house, right? Why do they like this house, right? And getting that tool that you created is genius, right? You took the time to build something. It may have taken 30 plus hours, but this tool now gets to be replicated over and over and over, and it's going to get fine-tuned over time, right? Like everyone's
Oh
needs
yeah.
are a little bit different. However, the experience that you're putting them through is like, hey, let's run through the calculator, let's see what this thing says, and let's make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck. So in my world, to answer that question, man, I just wanted to make sure I touch point on some of the things you said, because
Yeah.
really, really powerful, man. And I want to make sure that the viewers are picking that up. Now, as far as me, going back to that customer experience and being that trusted advisor, think about when you hire someone to give you guidance on business, right? If you look at the statistics, most people lean on friends that, other entrepreneurs is typically the first place they go to. And then they go to other professionals, right, within the industry of like, hey, how did you overcome this challenge? Or, hey, I'm currently facing this roadblock. What's a way to, get through it or around it or over or under? So having me as that trusted advisor, or that coach, in business, my role is to make sure that even if I don't have the answer, the reason why I named the company Master the Network is because I have the network, right? And I have the guidance from other professionals. So even with what you talked about, right, leaning it on your team, and this ties it all back together, is that you start to build out these solid relationships, right? You start building this great culture where people want to be around you, and it's because of that, of education. All we do is educate. We learn from one another, and at the end of the day, we learn enough to make us dangerous, so that, hey, when we have that one-on-one conversation with someone, you're like, hey, you know what? I may not be that puzzle piece you need, but I think I know the one that you need, and it's someone that I already know, I already trust. So because they're within my network, it's someone that when I bring to the table to you, it's someone that's going to be trusted, right? And they're going to take care of you the same way that I would. And that's what you want, is that when you do make those recommendations, people are like, wow, I had no idea that, this person could do what I needed. And it's through you, right? You are that conduit to figure out, hey, it may not be me right now. It's something that we need to work on. But hey, guess what? In like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, once you've done this work, now we come back to the table, and now we get you into that dream home, or that product or service that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And there's, Edgar, you touched on it, right? There's certain industries where you don't sell a tangible product or even a tangible service. Like, if you hire a landscaper, right, you know exactly what you're getting, right? They're going to be putting shovels into the ground. They're going to be moving rocks around. They're going to be putting trees and plants into place. They're going to be moving pipes around. Very tangible service, right? Telling people how to make money, right? Very intangible. You know what I'm saying? Because if I pay you to make money, I make less money. It's like, well, if you pay me to make a lot more money than you could have made with your own ideas, you made a lot more money. And I think you touched on it, how sometimes you have to be your own referral source. Sometimes you have to find a more tangible asset that you can achieve, whether, like you said, whether it's a certification in a few months or a new business idea. Sometimes you have to be your own referral source. You can't just depend on other people in your industry to figure out how they overcame it, because they may have overcame it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when they're not dealing with the same problems that you're dealing with entering into this market. So, and that's why, I think innovation is so key in business in general. But I think it's really cool how we've both tackled the same problem with just slightly different ways, but making ourselves our own referral source. So very cool.
Yeah. End of the day, it's we're in the people business, right? It goes back to, for us to figure out how can we solve this potential person's challenge, right? And knowing that we do become our own referral source, for me specifically, that one certification that I wanted to go after, that I was talking about, I knew was going to be a game changer, right? And it's something that, I could refer that out. However, it's something that I want to get better in, right? And it's something I really want to understand, because if I'm going to be in business with this person for a long period of time, that roadmap is our tool to be able to guide and coach around, of like, hey, there's 8 different drivers. You're not going to learn all 8 in 1 year. We may focus on 2, move the needle on that. And hey, next year we're going to work on what's more important to you, right? Or hey, if we move this one, look at the impact it has on the bottom line on the flip side. So having those type of insights and guiding clients through that lifelong journey puts them back into your wheelhouse, right? And saying, hey, I'm ready to make bigger investments. Business is doing great. So what are those next moves? And finding those trusted advisors of, hey, now you need to go talk to so and so. If this is something you wanted to dabble in, they are way more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to that industry, when it comes to investments. And that's exactly what the real estate market is, right? It's a long-term investment. However, what's one question you got for me, man? Because I asked the last one. If not, I got another one for you.
Oh man, what's one question I've got for you? How do most of your customers determine what business they should be in?
Great question. So how do most customers determine what business they should be in? I mean,
because at the end of the day, I mean, you work with a way wider variety of businesses than you and I have ever participated in. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just work with so many different people, come from all kinds of walks of life. Where do they get their business idea from usually?
Yeah. And that's a great question, right? Because you're right. I do work with a different variety of business owners, whether they're in trades. There's clients that are, in security. There's clients that own bakeries and coffee shops. So it's all over the spectrum. So as far as what gives them the customers that or the business that they're in, it really depends on their passion, right? For me, it's to push them like, hey, what are you going to be excited to wake up to every single day? Most of us making money is part of it, but that's not everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's digging deep and finding out, why did you get into this industry, or why did you get into this business, and what is the purpose behind it, right? And most of them, or anyone that you ask that's a business owner, is most of us want that freedom, right? Ultimate freedom. But what does that really mean if you're in the business, 60 plus hours a week, week in, week out, 365 days, eventually they're going to burn out. So for me, that initial conversation is the most important one. Is, what are you in this business for? And how long do you plan on being in it? What does success look like to you in your eyes? And once I start hearing those answers, I'm no longer giving them the information that I'm trying to get, but they're giving me the information that is important, right? So that's where I'm like, okay, great. How fast do you want to get there?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the goal is to, some of the things that we hear is, one, I got into this business because I know it's lucrative, right? However, it allows me to spend more time with my family. So then you dig a little deeper and you're like, well, how's the family time going? And they're like, well, not so well. And you're like, well, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, well, because I'm so busy with the business. And that could be a combination of things, man. It's one, they don't have enough people on the team. They don't have the right team, or they don't have a way to step out, right? Like, they are the business. So the key thing in that is teaching them how to create systems and processes, right? You mentioned it earlier, is that, hey, I get to rely on my team while I take a step back to, for the first few weeks, months while my daughter is born, which means you have great systems. You got these processes, right? And you're like, hey, here's step by step. And the biggest example I can use, man, and this actually, see if it resonates with you the way it does with everyone. I've picked it up in a book recently, but it hit me like right between the eyes. There's $1 billion industry out there, fast food. That's in the hands of teenagers. And they continue to be successful and make money day after day, right? And you think about that conglomerate, McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
They streamline their processes so well that a teenager could come in, read, and say, okay, this is everything that I have to do. This is everything that's in my lane, and that's all I got to do. Cool, can do, right? And they just streamline everything else, right? Hey, you come in, this is all you do. So while orders are coming in, they know exactly what they have to do, right? They read the prompt, like, okay, this one needs this, and this is all I do. This is my station. Boom, goes to the next station. and it's a well-oiled machine, right? But it's teenagers running it with the guidance of, a manager that's in their 20s or 30s. But they're so successful at having franchises in 100+ countries,
Hmm.
right? The reason are so successful is because they took the time, like you mentioned earlier, right? Hey,
Hmm.
it took me 30 hours to build this. However, that streamlined process can get replicated over and over and over. And I'm sure they didn't figure it out at the beginning. It was fine tuned over years, and they've been in business for decades,
Yeah, that's how
right?
you get there, right?
So
Exactly.
that answers your question. I hope that was the long-winded version.
Well, no, and I'll before you ask your next question, I'll bounce something off you. You know, you mentioned something in the beginning there where, some people get into a business because they're passionate about it and they want to do their passion and get paid for it. Um, and some people go into it because it's lucrative, and then they want to spend time with family. That's why they got into it. They're like, oh, it's so lucrative. I'll be able to make more per hour. And then they realize, well, the reason why it's lucrative, there's so much competition. I got to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week just to compete with my competition in order to make the money. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, for example, I'll just use my business as an example. I was already giving away real estate investment advice. Now, obviously, this doesn't have to do anything with buying a home or selling a home or buying commercial real estate. Those are things I added on as I got more experienced in the business. But understanding how to be a landlord, I already knew at a very young age, because I was around it, I saw it. So I was teaching it for free. You know what I mean? So like I didn't mind just talking about it for free. And so to get paid for it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Uh, but I definitely can't say that like for example, like baking, like if baking was my passion, I think that would have been a much more easier career path. There's a much more clearly defined business rules in banking than there is in real estate. I don't wake up and go like, oh man, like, I gotta sell this house, or whatever it is, right? I wake up and I go, you know what, like it's part of the business. Like you got to provide the service, and I love helping people. But at the end of the day, I'm really passionate about the advice side. So like, how can I monetize giving good financial advice that's not anything that I'm not capable of giving? Like, can't give financial advice on stocks or insurance, but I got this real estate license here, so I can do that, right? So I really liked how you talked about like the dichotomy there, but I fall oddly in the middle. Very oddly, it's not a pure passion because my pure passion is the outdoors. It's not purely lucrative because I knew it was competitive. Like I knew going into this business that it was oversaturated, and I still succeeded anyway. So, all right,
Yeah.
Edgar, what's your last? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Did you have something to bounce off before your
Yeah,
last
yeah,
question?
you're exactly right, man. It's you fall in that interesting medium, right? In knowing that, like I've leaned on you over the years since I've gotten to know you, and I've learned so much. Real estate is a very interesting market, but the more you learn, it's I think Grant Cardone had said it in a podcast that I was listening to recently. He's like, look, he told his wife, when I die, I'll sell everything, sell the business, sell all the businesses, do not sell the real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, huh, interesting, and why not? And it's because that you think about real estate, if you make the right investments, and you know, when you make the right investments, these are the investments that are going to pay you in generations to come forever.
Yeah.
People always need a place to live, right? And there's smart investments and not so smart investments. So knowing that, hey, I've got the right team around me, right? Whether you've got someone in your industry, someone in the financial advice, as an FA, and that's one conversation I have with business owners is, hey, who's part of your team right now? What? Let's look at not just the roadmap in business, but let's look at the roadmap with the advisors you have around you. Who
Mm-hmm.
do you have in your corner? Because let's call a spade, man. Business is not sunshine and rainbows. It's
No.
it's ebbs and flows of business, right? It's peaks and valleys. And when you're in a valley, who do you lean on? Who do you have as that trusted person to say, hey, here's what I'm going through. Here's what I'm facing. And in that business journey, man, you got to build that circle to where you can really unload on someone and say, hey, here's what's really going on, and no judgment, right? They're going to say, hey, you're not alone. Been there. Here's how I faced it. This may not work for you. However, take the pieces that are, bolt on, towards your business and see how it can help. So that's something that has resonated with me is learning from other business professionals, right? Building that team around you of not just like, hey, I know all the answers. I've got the people that do though. So that something that resonated with me, that was that book, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. That book, man, changed the way I started to build my relationships massively. Now, as far as final question, because I know we've got 4 minutes before we wrap up.
We got time for one more, yeah.
Is looking back at, and we're still young in our careers, but looking back at everything that we've accomplished year to date, is there anything that you do differently, Davin? And if you would do differently, how
come? Man, that's really tough. I would say there was a point in time in my career last year, right? I know maybe it was 2 years. It was 2 years ago, where I had the opportunity to outsource the training of my agents, and it was going to greatly increase the efficiency of how many agents I could take on. And it's not like it didn't work out. I mean, the business still made a profit. I mean, the coach I hired still got paid. Like, we ended on good terms, like it wasn't a complete failure. But what I realized is, like, I need to invest in myself as a coach, and I need to see myself as more of a coach than a business owner. Before I hire a manager who can do that job for me, I actually have to do the job myself. That would be the one thing that I think I made. I don't want to say a mistake on, because I learned from it, but if I had known what I know now, I would definitely do it a different way, for sure.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, for me, as we come to a close, man, I would say I don't think I'd do anything differently. To be honest, I think to be able to go through, because I've, since I've known you, I've gone through 3 different careers.
Yeah.
But something that, and the reason I did this, and I don't know if people realize this, but I've started to let, like, my leadership group know that, the reason why I go into certain industries is because the Marine Corps made me really smart. If there's something I don't know, I'm gonna go learn it. I'm gonna go trade my time for knowledge. Most people trade their time for a paycheck. I traded my time for knowledge, and I study and study and study, and learning the ins and outs of why companies do certain things or don't do certain things. Why don't they do it, right? And I'm one that I lean on my curious mind of understanding, right? I want to understand, and then I'm saying, you know what? Cool. I appreciate everything I learned, and now you've given me the knowledge that I need to add to that puzzle piece, right? I'll always tell people, consult with your professional. However, I can give you some guidance. So for me, I don't feel I would do anything different. And I embrace the journey that I'm on, for sure.
Rock on.
Wrap us up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Edgar, let's both take 30 seconds. You go first. I'll take my 30 seconds. It's just what'd you get out of this week's podcast, or just in general throughout our podcast, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I would say 30 seconds on what we got out of today was, man, I'm excited for where both of our features are heading. As far as we're still in the trenches. However, things are changing, right? We're building that amazing team and culture of being able to help so many people out in the business world.
Nice. Rock on. One thing that I get out of this podcast, whether it's these one-on-ones or whenever we have a guest, you constantly drop these nuggets. And there are these, sometimes it's a reminder, and sometimes it's, oh, dang, I didn't realize that was a puzzle piece I should be looking for. Because unfortunately in business, you have this 500-piece puzzle and they don't give you all the pieces. You have to go like dig for them in your yard. You have to go like ask family members for some of them. You got to door knock on strangers to get others. And so you're constantly giving me those. So I appreciate that. So till next time, my name is Davin Sundvik and Edgar Rodriguez here, and you were watching the Love of Business podcast. See you guys next time.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.